Hello, we are back. And I just want to start out. Spotify Rap came out last week, and we're gonna do a top five best artists to be in your. I'm just kidding. But I do want to shout out. We had a podcast, Spotify Wrapped, and I have it pulled up right now. Nine of you, nine loyal listeners had us in your top 10. Five of you had us in your top five, into the elite four. The final four had us as your number one podcast of the year, which we didn't start doing this till August, maybe early September. So, to those loyal listeners, thank you. We appreciate you. Topher, anything about that?
Shout out to all the good people joining us in the beta run of this wonderful programming.
Oh yeah.
Only up and up from here, buddy.
The only Florida Gators podcast where one member lives in Florida and the other lives in South Dakota. So
That is almost certainly true.
we're almost coast to coast. Almost. You know, I'm in the plains in the Midwest. So uh that'll do it about that. I just want to give a little shout out to our fans, our loyal listeners. So shout out, thank you. We appreciate you. But Topher, while we were gone, some things happened, some news. Early signing day happened. After, flip on flip on flip leading up to early signing day, guys, a pretty underwhelming day, especially with all the things we had heard about that. And then, the transfer portal is officially opened. There's some Florida moves that obviously we're going to talk about. A couple non-Florida moves that I want to touch on, but we'll keep them mostly Gators based. And so we'll talk about that. And then, you know, we're a Gators centric podcast, but there have just been some insane things that have happened in college football. The playoff selection committee selected their 12 for the playoff. Other moves around the transfer portal, coaching moves. So, we're not going to touch on everything, but we will maybe bring up some stuff that we find either interesting or very funny. So Topher, I'll let you start. Just I guess we'll start with the early signing day. You just kind of want to talk about the Gators and maybe their lack of movement on the actual day of signing.
Yeah, let's to your point, we'll go sort of chronologically in the story of the last 2 weeks. So it started with early signing day. To your point, Florida had a lot of momentum on the trail in the last couple of weeks. Pretty much once Billy Napier got that vote of confidence from the administration, that public statement, combine that with the winning streak to end the season, beating LSU, beating Ole Miss, the kind of just general good vibes, and the knowledge that this thing's going to keep trucking into next year. Florida flipped like a half dozen or a dozen players from all across the country, including some pretty big names, to their signing class. We get to signing day, and there's a couple of big names on the board, some more realistic than others. I think the big one was, I believe, Dallas Wilson, the wide receiver. I believe that's his name. He's committed to Oregon, is a high five-star kid from Tampa. I believe went to a high school. I think he's represented by Trey Wilson's dad, might have gone to the same high school. So obvious connections there. He was crystal balled to Florida by everybody at 247 pretty much. I think there was a report that he had even told coaches that he was coming to Florida, and then he announces his live signing day, ends up signing with Oregon. You know, maybe it's money, maybe he just sees what Dan Lanning's got cooking and he just wants to stay with that.
Well, did you see the story that came out about that? I
I
will
didn't
say
see all of it.
I I don't remember who reported this. So I'm sorry I cannot credit you. But I did see a report. Maybe it was one of the Florida reporters like Alphaverde or somebody like that or Blake Alderman. Like I said, I don't know for sure. I don't remember. I just remember I definitely saw this was he basically told Florida that he was gonna go there, but then Oregon was the last place he visited before I believe his mom passed away. And then when that kind of when a kid tells you something like that, like what are you supposed to say to that? Like how do you respond? And so I'm not gonna act like that is the main and only reason that he decided to stay with Oregon and not flip. Because obviously I'm sure, the Phil Knight bag was involved. I'm sure some other outside factors. I'm sure the fact that Oregon's 13 and 0 and in the number one in the country has to also do a lot of it. But, you know, that is something that I did see where it's just like, man, how are you gonna compete with that? So That's what
Yeah,
I saw.
I I had totally forgotten that that was a thing. And you know, with stuff like that, it's like, you know, that's the nature of college recruiting is there's these are very personal decisions. At the end of the day, this is where a kid's going to try and make his career happen, and it's going to be a big part of his thing. And there's a lot of personal ties to that. And, you know, at the end of the day, guys come or they don't. And that was the big one. I think that started off the day on kind of a sour note from Florida perspective. And then I believe Solomon Thomas, interior offensive lineman from Jacksonville, was committed to Florida State, was a heavy Florida lean, it felt like, for like 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, LSU kind of comes out of nowhere and they end up flipping him from Florida State. That was a pretty big miss, especially with how Florida's under recruited the offensive line, at least on paper. Under Billy Napier, not a lot of high profile names or big star ratings, but I also think offensive line is a position where that doesn't necessarily matter. But that was another big one. And the DJ Pickett, the cornerback committed to LSU, he was kind of a late flip hopeful, it felt like. Um, he was a Florida target for a long time. Didn't really happen, didn't really manifest. And then all of a sudden, but 23rd hour, it's like, ooh, something could be happening here. Um, it's just never manifests. He signs with LSU. So missing out on all three of those guys and a couple other potential targets in that top 50 range, those premium blue chip guys, it stings a little bit. I do think now that we're a week removed, it's easier to be like, you know, it's not the end of the world. It was still a pretty solid signing class. But I think when you're riding such a high wave of momentum, it's easy to be a little disappointed.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like you said, is it's kind of just feels like it puts everything into perspective. Florida has all this momentum. They end the season on a 3-game winning streak. They beat a couple big teams, and uh, you know, you look at all the flips they're doing, and you're like, oh, signing day is going to be huge, or early signing day, and then there was a report that came out by Apple Verity saying that Florida, they're not going to lose a single bidding war that they choose to participate in, and things like that, and you look at just how the day went, and it's that reminder, like, oh yeah, LSU is still LSU, and you know, Oregon is still Oregon, and Florida, as good as the season ended, like they're still a ways away. There's still things they need to build on, and just looking forward. I will say I called the Solomon Thomas thing. I said last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we recorded last, that I would not get my hopes up for him because he felt like another Jordan Seaton. And what do you know? He flips to LSU and he says he wishes he could have played for FSU. Excuse me? What? Sir, you chose the commitment. Sir, you chose to play for LSU. What are you talking about? So I don't know. I mean, it was just obviously an underwhelming day, but in perspective, like they still turned out a really solid class, and it can still go up because that was early signing day, and we'll also see with what they do in the transfers. So Topher, do you want to kind of transition toward that? Anything else you want to say in terms of early signing day?
No, I think to put a bow on it, I think people in their disappointment with the signing class kind of indirectly diminished some of the guys Florida did sign. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's a lot of really exciting players in this group. Um, I think we all get distracted by the shiny new toy in the window, and you like the guys with the big numbers next to their names and the guys that haven't been around that long. But Florida under Billy Napier has done a pretty good job of identifying talent. Um, and a lot of the profiles of guys in this crew are pretty exciting and they fit a lot of what Florida's done well with. Um, Now it's a matter of sealing the deal and getting enough ready to roll contributors out of the transfer portal to make this a serious playoff contender next year, which I think should be the expectation. And I mean, if you want to just hop right into the portal cycle, because I'm sure there's a lot to kind
Yeah,
of go.
let's do it. You know. We had a lovely doc. Topher put in some real work on this thing. I just took my cough drop out. That's why my camera turned off. I beat the runny nose allegations that I was dealing with on Monday. And we're coming right back with the sore throat allegations that are kind of beating my ass today. So this is my flu game. This is my flu podcast. Yeah, so there's a bunch of walkouts or walk-ons who are walking out of the program, and who cares, whatever. But of the notables, Jack Pyburn, which was a big shocker. We can talk about him in a second. Justice Boone, we already touched on him. Andy Jean, we already touched on him. Uh, Kelby Collins, I don't think we really touched on him. He was a blue chip recruit, but he really just did not play last year. Really just fell down the depth chart. Arliss Boardingham, kind of the same thing, where he wasn't necessarily a blue chip recruit, but he showed flashes his first year and really just did not do much his second year. Shout out to best eyes in the game. The one that I'm most personally upset about from a football perspective is probably Jakeem Jackson. I thought he had a lot of potential, and he showed a lot of flashes his freshman year, and I think battled injuries a lot his second year, but he's a guy who I thought could be really special at Florida, and I guess he's gonna go elsewhere. So I guess are there any you want to talk about, or do you just want to start with Jack Pyburn, or how do you want to do it?
Let's I'll touch on Jakeem Jackson real quick and then we can go to Pyburn because to your point, Jackson is a guy who felt like he had more in the tank than he had shown so far. He played a lot his freshman season as kind of a reserve, stepped in with injuries and all that, and I thought he was pretty good. I'm sure he had his moments like any young cornerback does when they're kind of exposed the way Florida's defense kind of forces their corners to be a lot of the time. But I didn't think he was terrible, and I thought he had a lot of upside. He's got good physical traits that project well at that position, and I know he only played a little bit this season before going down hurt, but I kind of assumed he'd be sort of next man up with Jason Marshall going to the pros and some of the other guys aging out of this unit is going to be like Jakeem Jackson and Devin Moore. We're going to be corner one, corner two. That's kind of what I expected. And that's, I think, a big loss. I don't think it's one that Florida can, I think it's one they can weather. I think they have enough guys, and that might be part of what's going on here is that there are enough guys, be it incoming freshman like Ben Hanks or Cormani McLean or whatever it ends up being, they probably have the guys to make it work. But it's a little disappointing from a player that did show a lot of genuine promise when he was on the field.
Yeah, I'll never forget what was it? I think it was at Vanderbilt the year we covered them. We had that sick pass breakup. I think it was on fourth and goal. So never forget. But Shaq Pyburn, I mean, man, what a roller coaster. So, you know, we are on record of kind of being the who is this guy? We were not super high on his game, and then he must have heard that, and he completely took that and turned around his season. He had an incredible finish to the year. You have it listed here: 60 tackles, 4 tackles for loss of sack, just a really solid edge. Can play in pass coverage, can set the edge on a pass rush, but allegedly, we don't know if this is 100% true or not. This is just the rumor. He was asking for the bag in NIL. Wanted to get paid a bunch. He also reported allegedly, not reported, allegedly, uh, was asking for like certain amount of snaps and like third playing every third down and just some outrageous demands if they're true. Again, this is all alleged. We don't know for sure, but I mean, I it sucks. He was definitely a key player towards the end. It would have been nice to have him, but I think we were at real risk of him getting the number one jersey, which we have had just a bad string of number ones. Like Ricky Pearsall was really good, like he earned it. Uh, I think was Copeland the one directly before him. Like, come on, man. Um, we need some real ones wearing the number one, and I fear Jack Pyburn is not a real one. So, Topher, do you want to talk about that transfer a little bit? Maybe if it's how it, shocking, anything like that.
Yeah, it was definitely shocking. Jack Pyburn sort of has that old school, loves the program kind of vibe. I mean, he's a guy who's been in the program 3 years and didn't really play at all to start his career. You would think if a guy's still here at that point, you think he's just kind of a lifer. He's gonna play here till he's not allowed to play here anymore. Um, but he finally got his chance, and he proved he belongs at this level, and he was a very good and effective player at what he does. Um, I'm sure he did, you know, want some kind of NIL or some kind of assurances. I don't know if it's quite as extreme as has been rumored necessarily, but I'm sure he wanted something. And to be honest, at Florida, you don't really need to overpay for Jack Pyburn. If to be perfectly honest and as respectful as possible, you've got LJ McCray waiting in the wings. You've got TJ Searcy waiting in the wings. You've got potentially a guy in the transfer portal waiting in the wings.
You've got my goat Austin Armstrong coaching them.
Exactly. The go Austin Armstrong coaching the boys up. Like I know Jack Pyburn is really good at some specific things that those guys aren't there with yet, but it's Jack Pyburn, guys. All right. The world is not ending because a guy who looks like Jack Pyburn is leaving the field. Let's all be
Yeah.
so for real for a
As
second.
as someone who is half Asian, I could say this. Like, are we to all the people who are like, man, it felt like he loved, like he bled for this program. Like, are we sure we're not mostly saying this because he's white? Like 90% of this feels like it's just because he's a white player.
Look,
Plays ball the right way.
there's two guys that clear there's two guys on the defensive line that definitely love the program. I would say Caleb Banks, Tyreek Sapp, those are program guys that are all about it. Jack Pyburn may be that guy, but to your point, is 100% because he's a white guy.
Yeah.
He,
Like Kate,
he's the first notable white Florida defensive player I can remember since I've been following teams, since what, like Anzalone, whenever that was.
yeah. Either him or, I can't even think of another one. Um, and then we'll get into targets. I want to real quick before we get into targets, I want to we'll go on a couple of these, but now that we've talked about players who are leaving Florida and some of the guys we liked, like Jakeem Jackson, I want to give my analogy to you, that I've come to realize about the transfer portal. So for context, if you listen to this, I am also a Cal fan. And this is not about Fernando. I'll talk about that at the end of the show. This is actually about wide receiver and Isaiah Hunter. He had a super solid season. He was one of my favorite players. Great receiver. Caught like I think 6, 8 touchdowns, something like that. Was a beast. He enters the transfer portal. And if you're listening on Spotify, I have his Twitter pulled up and I'm scrolling through his feed and he just every single time he's offered, he tweets out their logo and he says like UW offered, Wisconsin offered, Syracuse offered, Kansas offered, so on and so forth. There's like 15, 20 schools that he's tweeted about. And I finally realized what it's like, what the real world comparison's like. It's like if your ex, like you still followed your like ex-girlfriend on social media, and every single time she got like a Tinder match or like a Hinge like, she posted it on her story. Like Brad liked, like uh, you know, Charlie liked, Chris liked. It's like every single time you're just tapping through a story and you're like, God damn, like 20 likes today? Like, please. You don't have to rub it in my face. That's what it feels like though. Because you're just watching your favorite players who are leaving the program because you weren't enough for them. And they're just like, hey, here's my other 30 options that I'm considering. So that's my analogy I've given to you that came to me in a moment of enlightenment last night.
You are cooking with that one. And like we're privileged as people who follow Florida that that's not really a thing because of the Florida brand and financial resources. But if you're any program that's not in this true top cast, like it's just like a gut punch. Is that like, oh look, all my favorite players. Oh, okay. So
They're all gone.
cool,
It's
cool,
over.
sick. So sick. And now you're gonna have to suffer with watching Fernando Mendoza play Florida in the swamp next year or in Miami next year.
No trust. Dando is a he's a Hoosier, man. That's where his brother plays.
No, those are the two. Those are the two.
He's a Hoosier. So we'll get into I'll talk about that later. We'll get into transfers and targets. Is there any place you want to start? Any player, I mean, that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I'm most intrigued by the kind of four pack of receivers. I guess it's five now. Um, the clear receiver targets. Florida needs a couple of receivers. We talked about this last time. Losing Elijah Badger and Chimdike, two most veteran, most productive pass catchers. They're also the only guys that kind of have that body type and skill set. You know, Trey Wilson, Aiden Mizell, and Tank Hawkins are all cool, exciting players, but they're all a little smaller, a little shiftier, run after catch types. Florida needs like a proper outside receiver. So I'm looking at the four kind of main targets who all fit that mold pretty much on the nose. We are cooking with that. That is in fact what they are looking for. Um, and I kind of I have them all listed here. Um, And there's definitely to me a clear three tiers to these guys in terms of who gets me the most excited as a Florida fan. And I think Nick Anderson from Oklahoma would be so sick.
He'd be
Um,
awesome.
I
He's a
was,
dog.
dude, I was rewatching a very, very well put together highlight tape from his season at Oklahoma 2 years ago. He's just a dog, dude. He's fast. He's huge. He had 10 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. He's 6'4". Like, this is what they look like. This is the exact player Florida needs physically, athletically. He's a good deep threat, which we know DJ needs because that's what he's best at. Um, of all the guys Florida's targeting in the portal, he's the one that screams like all SEC top 100 NFL draft pick. He's the only guy that kind of matches that description. If you have any other
Him
kind
and
of Nick
Rocco
Anderson
Underwood.
takes.
Shout out the lone all SEC selection for Florida, my guy Rocco. No, I agree. No, Nick's sick. It sucks that he missed all of this year, to injury, but regardless, he's a baller. I mean, he's just a beast, and get him with DJ and just let the fellas cook. Um, Other than that, I feel like you laid it out pretty nicely. I'd be intrigued by CJ Daniels solely because I think he'd bring some juice, if you know what I mean, to the program. And I know that was more of a Kyron Lacey thing, but I mean it's the LSU brand. So bring me CJ Daniels. I'll take those two. Especially since CJ Daniels, if he doesn't take as large of a role, then it's like he's someone who could still do that same thing. And then you have Nick Anderson, Trey, and Mizell who can still take the bulk of the snaps. Um,
Yeah. That's and for me, that's why he's more in like my third tier of transfer receivers. So for me, it's Nick Anderson is the clear like number one guy, future like star number one receiver. That's the guy to go for right now. And then you have the two G5 kind of high upside mystery boxes. Reggie Virgil from Miami, Ohio, and Chase Sowell from East Carolina, who is a double Gator legacy, which is sick. Um, both these guys, again, they're huge. They're like both 6'4", 6'5", big bodies. Both have connections to Florida. Obviously, Soul is a legacy to UF. Virgil's from, I think he's from Apopka, I think, there in Central Florida. Both super productive. Virgil, one of the best receivers in the MAC. Soul has over 600 yards in back-to-back seasons uh, at East Carolina. The thing is, one, you always have to question competition level and how it upscales to the SEC from those leagues. And two, especially for Seoul, um, what I've seen from his game, from kind of the rapid scouting report, is that while he has the build um, of like a proper outside receiver, he doesn't really do that stuff that much. He's not really a jump ball threat. He's not really a deep threat. A lot of his production is kind of on underneath stuff, and then he just kind of hoops with the ball in his hands, which is cool. But we kind of have a lot of those guys.
yeah.
But also he's still developing. He's the most mystery box of the bunch, and then Virgil seems like a nice option, but again, it's what can he do at the highest level.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like I said, CJ Daniels. I mean, Nick Anderson's obviously my top guy. I say bring me Nick and CJ. And then let the fellas roll. Uh, I want to go to Justin Martin next because oh good Lord, please bring me a quality backup quarterback. Please, dear Lord. He's never played. But you know, I watched his high school tape. I sent some of it to you. He can spin it. Um, he can spin the rock. Maybe let's check his LinkedIn. Maybe he's like our king, Chase Griffin, the LinkedIn king, the connections king. And he can really just, you know, network his way to getting Florida another 5 star after DJ like declares for the draft. You know, maybe he'll network his way to like some more 5 star wide receivers. Like this is all it's all in the long game here. So Justin Martin, uh, come on down to Gainesville. Topher, any thoughts on a quarterback who's never played?
Um, I'm sure you can spin it. No, jokes aside, it is interesting that Florida's pretty aggressively going after a backup quarterback in the portal. Obviously, it's a position of need. All due respect to Winter Park High School GOAT, Aiden Warner. Uh, he's not really for prime time. And I guess shout out Clay Millen, who is on the roster,
Yeah,
maybe.
don't know what's up with him. I had no clue.
Uh,
I don't understand.
but
Uh,
But the point is, Florida needs a guy, and preferably a guy who is actually more of a true dual threat or has a little more arm talent, more akin to DJ. Um, and Justin Martin is on paper that kind of guy with that kind of skill set. I also saw they're hosting the Charlotte quarterback, Deshaun Purdy, who was actually their starter down the stretch. He
wrong
took over.
quarterback, wrong quarter, Charlotte quarterback they're hosting.
He actually took over for Florida GOAT Max Brown,
No.
future Northwest Oklahoma State legend Max Brown. Uh,
He's going to UWF baby.
the future
He can take over for
D3 All-American Stokes.
Marcus Stokes, yeah. Shoot.
Good guy. But no, Florida needs a backup quarterback. Um,
Bro, I'm looking at Marcus Stokes, or not, sorry, no, I'm looking at Max Brown's game log. Good God.
yeah, I mean they can bring him back if they want.
43 of 93, 563, 561 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6 picks. In his 5 games he played in, they lost 30-7, 38-20, 51-17, 33-28, and 34-3.
But he is a player.
And they went 5-7. So that means he played in he was the quarterback in 5 of their 7 losses.
But Deshaun Purdy, on the other hand, was actually pretty good. Threw for 1,800 yards, 10 tutties as a true freshman. I'm actually a
He
little surprised that he's considering being a backup at a place like Florida.
Dude, he wants education, bro. Top 5 public university.
Formerly at public university.
Top 6 public university.
Is that accurate?
I think so. I think we're tied 6. Let me check US News. If you want to keep talking about some of the targets, I will look up Florida's ranking on the US News.
Yeah, so you can just kind of look at it, the positions of need, to kind of see whom else Florida needs to target. So obviously receivers big, back quarterback is a must. Outside of that, it's the same positions everybody needs, which is offensive tackle, especially on the right side. Crenshaw Dixon's out of eligibility, need a new guy over there. It's kind of light on targets. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I was scouring the portal. And it's like, ooh, ah, e.
It's not great. Also, Florida's 7th. So either they dropped again or I was wrong. Uh,
Jesus Christ.
top 7 public university, still higher than Charlotte. We're tied with the University of Texas, Austin. We're above Georgia Tech, so suck it. We are ahead of New Mountain West School, except for football, UC Davis. Let's see. There's a ton of schools tied for ninth. University of Illinois, UC Irvine, UC Davis, Georgia Tech. So we're behind. Here's what we need to beat out. We can just completely derail this real quick. UC San Diego is six. That's who's usurped us. UNC Chapel Hill. That's easy money. I think we could take them. University of Virginia. We could take them, dude. Bennett ball. They're gonna be slow as hell. We can outpace them. If we beat them in basketball, we should be ahead of them academically. I'll say it. University of Michigan. UC Berkeley. UCLA.
Hmm. No, we got that.
I think we can at least get to three. I am not threatened by the University of Michigan.
That's light work.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, back to the transfer targets. Yeah. Do you want to talk about your you have a let me cook speculation? Do you want to talk about those guys or maybe leave it for another day?
No, screw it. Let's just rip. So the guys we've talked about already are guys with confirmed interest, um, either in Florida or Florida has confirmed interest in them. The receivers, a couple of defensive players as well. We didn't talk about Keyshawn Silver, very good, very big defensive tackle from Kentucky, a natural Cam Jackson replacement. Um, and Zechariah Poyser, a young guy from Jacksonville State, one of the better young players in Conference USA, would be a safety, potentially an upgrade over some of Florida's young guys, potentially a depth piece. I don't know. Those guys we know are coming. Obviously, Florida needs some more guys. So I just have a couple of names that make sense to my brain. And one of whom I'm very excited by and would absolutely love if Florida somehow made it work. So the first one is, as I was saying, the offensive tackle transfer portal. Everyone needs them, but oh, boy, howdy, they are just not there, man.
It's not great.
Um, I was scouring for a guy to even put on this. The only one that makes sense might suck and not even be worth including, but he does have the body type that Florida likes to recruit on the offensive line. His name's Xavier Gray from Liberty, formerly of Akron. Um, he's just huge, dude. He's like 6'9", 340. Uh, Florida historically under Billy Napier loves cartoonishly large guys to play in the trenches.
It's hilarious. They're straight up just it's like he's the stereotype in high schools where it's like they see like a super big kid and they're like, "You ever come out for football, son?"
I
That's
mean,
Billy Napier.
that's how they recruited Cam Waits to Louisiana.
And look how he turned out.
You know, he's one of the players in Florida history.
Yep. Get that guy a brick.
But yeah, I honestly that's mostly just a that's including Gray in this episode is my way of saying Florida needs a tackle, but I'm not sure if a tackle exists. So uh hats off to the personnel department trying to find a guy to fill that role. The one that excites me and I want to bounce off of you is Deuce Robinson from USC. I don't know how much you know about this kid, but he's sick. Um,
I can't say I know a lot about him.
so the backstory on him, he's either a sophomore or redshirt freshman. Um, he's former five-star. I think he was an athlete listed at a high school in Arizona. Um, his signing came down to USC, Georgia, or the Dodgers because he was also a very high-level high school baseball player
Oh wow.
that was drafted in the top 5 rounds or something by the Dodgers, and he had a very tangible offer to go play professional baseball before ending up at USC. So he's just such a unique player. He's one of those kind of just freaky tight end builds that we've seen a couple of throughout the last couple of years. And boy, oh boy, I want him. I want him. I want him real bad on this team, dude. He's 6'6", 220. He moves like a wide receiver. He just is a wide receiver. That's a big body, but you can kind of move him in different spots because of that. No idea if Florida would be interested. He doesn't really do what Florida tight ends are supposed to do in this system. No idea if he'd be interested. He's probably going to end up at Georgia. But man, I just see 6'6", 220 with receiver skills, and I covet it. I need that in the slot.
He only played 4 games or he started 2 games for USC baseball. Bro fell off. That's why he's not gonna come to Florida, bro. He's not gonna make the Florida baseball team. Sully doesn't need him.
He could be the next Max Brown. You don't know.
Bum in two sports, two sport bum.
Well, but
See,
no, man.
what
Dude's
Trevor
from
Sanchez is doing is easy. You got to be like Max Brown and play two sports and be ass at both of them. No, I believe though. We'll see. We can manifest it.
Is there anyone else in the portal right currently that you're just like, ooh, make it happen?
If I could like wish cast,
Yeah,
we could do what I did in my Florida dynasty, which is I actually brought Nando in as my backup quarterback behind DJ Lagway. That is a real thing that happened in my, well, not a real thing that happened in real life, but a real thing that I did in my dynasty. Fernando entered the portal and I took him in at Florida to be the backup. So that's one option. He was a great backup, played a little bit when DJ got hurt for one game. Trying to think anybody else. We could bring in a bunch of the Arkansas players because, like I've been saying, they've been dogs for me in my dynasty. Brad Spence is sick. Uh, there was another guy I can't remember. Um, in terms of real names, like I'm trying to think of any, if any that have really stood out to me. Um, I'd have to double check. Um, maybe honestly, Florida should offer Isaiah Hunter because he's sick and he fits the mold of what Florida wants. Uh, who else is out there? Like I don't even know. There's just too many names, man. I can't keep up. There
it's
are
it's aggressive.
I think this did you see I think this portal has had more people enter the portal than like combined years past for football.
It to talk big picture at the portal is I do not like it. Um, it's almost certainly bad for college football. It's largely bad for the athletes, in most of them at least. But what I will say is that it is extremely exciting in like a train wreck, you can't look away sense. There's just so much going on. How can you not look away?
They should bring in I just saw the name. Hang on. Where did it go? They should bring in Robbie Ashford as their backup quarterback. Can I get
No,
you on
thank
board with backup for the quarterback, Robbie Ashford? Bro, he's the GOAT, trust. Dude,
you.
he's actually sick.
To play tight end, sure.
Nah, dude, quarterback. That's my QB1 right there.
Yeah.
What a
All right.
spin job by the state. South Carolina's top backup quarterback in transfer portal. Top backup quarterback.
Good
What a
heavens.
crazy spin job. I respect it. He was 15 to
Shameless.
21 for 243 yards, two touchdowns. Don't ask who it was against.
Woof. All right. Any other Florida recruiting things? Because I think there's plenty we kind of just got to cook on.
Yeah, bring Robbie Ashford to Florida. That's my last take. Dude, he's better than Peyton Thorne. That's all I'll say.
Uh,
I believe that with my full heart, bro. Peyton Thorne is maybe the worst SEC quarterback who started multiple seasons I think I've ever seen in my life.
he's on the short list.
He just stinks. No, I mean that's kind of it. Anything else from you?
No, and I guess there's also a bowl game we haven't touched on, but we can touch
Oh
on that at a later date.
yeah. We can touch on it a little bit at the end. I guess we'll keep working chronologically. So signing day transfer portal. The playoffs were revealed, and I really don't have much gripes with the actual like bracket. Like, cool. Like it is what it is. Like Indiana Notre Dame, super fun. I'm sure you're hyped about that. Happy for SMU. Cannot believe Clemson did it again. Um, they just keep getting away with it, and whatever, man. Dabo in the playoff. And then yeah, Boise State and Arizona State. How about that? What I do want to talk about is the amount. And we're a little late to this because this has been ongoing the past couple of days, but you know what? I'm still upset about it. Is the damn Alabama narrative. Like, oh my God. I just don't understand this take that like we have to schedule weaker non-conference opponents. My brother in Christ, you lost to your conference teams. My brother in Christ, you lost to those weaker conference opponents you're trying to get more of. That you say that SMU played a full slate of. My brother in Christ, the SEC schedule dropped today. Georgia plays Marshall, Austin P, Charlotte, and then Georgia Tech and Atlanta on a neutral site. Alabama plays FSU, who just went 2-10 and picked up damn Thomas Castellanos as their transfer quarterback as of recording. UL Monroe, home to Wisconsin, who's miserable right now, and who also does not have a quarterback. And who else? Georgia State. What are we doing? What are we doing, man? I don't. I'll let you take the floor, but I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, like it's the funniest thing is that they would probably get into the playoff if Wisconsin was like 10-2. Like if scheduling Wisconsin was actually like a play and that team was one of the better teams in the Big Ten, if they're 9-3, they have the same terrible losses, but then you also add a big time non-conference, like the exact same score, but Wisconsin's like the number 12 or like the number 15 team in the country. I'm actually fine putting them in over SMU because at that point you have a wide cross section of strong schedule. Um, but again, the point is like, man, I don't see how losing to 6-6 Vanderbilt and getting absolutely smacked by 6-6 Oklahoma has shit to do with non-conference scheduling. Like, like you yell at the conference commissioners, dog. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's frustrating that it's the great meme where it's like the biggest tool of fascism is making the position of power seem like they're constantly being attacked. A great example of this is the Los Angeles Lakers. Whatever that tweet is, like this
Yeah,
is that. This is
it's the
that play.
SEC, man. It is. It's just like because the funniest part too is like, and I made a tweet about this specifically about Alabama, about how their non-con teams I think went 19-18, I believe, because they played 5-7 in Wisconsin. They played an FCS school who I don't think I accounted into their record. And then help me out here. Who else did they play? Do you remember? Who were the two
Uh,
other non-cons?
Western Kentucky and South Florida.
So yeah, so a 6-6 USF team, and they went 8-4. But come on, man, it's Western Kentucky. Uh, SMU played BYU, who went 10-2, and almost made their conference title. And for most of the year, we thought they could be like a playoff team. They played TCU, who went 8-4, and also played in the Big 12. And like they played Nevada and Houston Christian. So like if you take those four teams, that's about on par. Like that's about the same, if not better, because at least SMU played a team that finished ranked, I think, in the top 25 for their non-conference. Whereas like Bama, it's like how much worse could you possibly get from like the schedule you played this year? Like obviously Wisconsin, we thought maybe they could have been better, but like if this is already like no point in playing a tough non-conference, what does it look like to play a non-tough non-conference? I don't understand what
Yeah.
because and again, you it's not like they lost to like Wisconsin and that was what's holding them back. And it's like, well, there's no point. We went 8-0 in the SEC and we lost to Wisconsin. We didn't make the playoff. It's the fact that you got your shit kicked in by the teams in your own conference. Like,
Yeah, it's so dumb and it's such a non-argument because like this none of this has to do with anything. Like, what are we talking about? That's what I'm at the end of all this, that's where I come down on. It's like, what the fuck what the fuck are we talking about, dude? Like, why are we talking about non-conference scheduling? Because you lost out because you got crushed in conference. Like, just win your winnable conference game. If they won either of those games, if Alabama's 10-2 with one really bad loss and one perfectly fine loss, I have no problem with them being in the playoff. That's fine. But they lost both of them, bro. Like
And
Just don't
Tennessee
lose
on the
the
road.
winnable
Like
games.
it's the fact like the thing that gets me is like they immediately change it into a hypothetical where it's like, well, we got screwed over because if you put us on a neutral field with SMU, we'd beat them. Like, look at our players. And you're like, maybe that's true. However, one school made its power conference championship and one school lost a quarter of its games. Like 9-3 is great, but like when you break it down, they lost 25% of their regular season football games were L's. And to most of them to not good teams. Vanderbilt and Oklahoma were not good. Tennessee made the playoffs, so that's great. But like, come on, man. I just don't get it. I
Yeah,
don't get the what we're even talking about right now.
and I think to kind of round out this particular discussion, it's frustrating to me because the clear rhetorical strategy from both Alabama partisans and then SEC partisan hacks is that they're trying to equate what happened last year with this. Like the tragedy that was Florida State getting left out for winning all of their games is what they're trying to make it the same level of outrage. Um, because that was a clear definitive statement from the committee that the games do not matter. And Alabama, in a desperate attempt to play the victim, is saying, "Wow, they said the games don't matter. You shouldn't even play hard games anymore." It's just like it has fallen flat. And I think the good part is that I think most people have not been suckered into this extremely stupid idea. Um, the problem and sad thing is that uh, we're just gonna get to the four auto bids for the super leagues even sooner. Um, it is what it is.
I will say, I think the most ironic thing about this entire thing is that Bama's AD and all these Bama fans are talking about how they need to schedule like just completely cupcake schedules. And the irony is this in this is that your head coach is a big game merchant. Kalen DeBoer, like he beat Georgia. He beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl. I know Auburn wasn't very good, but like you win a big game. Trying to think who else. Who was even on Bama's schedule? Like they completely smacked LSU. Like emptied out Death Valley. Like he's a big game merchant. And so if you give him a weaker schedule, maybe that team's 6-6 because he just doesn't get his boys ready. You're muted.
Sorry. Here's Alabama schedule to your point. Um, so played Wisconsin, big noon game, was one of the bigger games that week. Smoke them. Play Georgia, one of the biggest games of the season. Smoke them. The next week, after just beating Georgia, massive game, lose to Vanderbilt in a sleepy 3:30 game in Nashville. Okay. They lose to Tennessee. It is what it is. Tennessee's just good. They play Missouri, another big ABC game against the top 20 team, 34-0. LSU, night game in Death Valley, 42-13. You know, they've played well in a lot of the big games, to your point, and they just shit the bed against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. It is really that simple.
That's
And
why if they knew Kalen DeBoer better, they would schedule tougher schedules.
exactly, they need to go like old school Notre Dame, where every game is an absolute titan, just because.
Exactly. Then he can really get his boys going. Um, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So we've done, playoff selection. I guess we could touch on the bowl game a little bit. The boys are playing Tulane. I guess there's I feel like a lot less interesting now because one side has DJ Lagway and one side will have Ty Thompson? Question mark. Shout out the boy. We're gonna get to see him play football, so that'll be fun. Um, I got the bowl game right. I called it. I did not get the opponent right, so I'll take my half victory lap. Um, but yeah, just thoughts on a Tulane team that kind of is falling apart towards the end?
Yeah, it's whatever. There's a lot of really sick old school iconography. Have you seen some of the old game programs and stuff floating around?
I have, and they're
From
very lit as hell.
some old Florida Tulane games. So from a purely aesthetic standpoint, especially in the throwback world, pretty lit.
So what you're
Um,
saying is both teams should wear throwback uniforms.
God, that would go crazy.
That would be so
That would
sick.
go crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I love bowl games. They'll be fun. Florida will have a lot of their guys playing because either they're young or they're guys like Cam Jackson and Elijah Badger who have already committed to playing in the bowl game. So shout out. It would be more fun if it was a team that wasn't actively falling apart, but it's fun to watch football.
I mean, at least they're retaining John Summerall, so they have that. But it just sucks because it's like you're losing your quarterback, and you got your shit kicked in by Army. You got manhandled by Memphis, so it's just like what was could have been like we're threatening Boise for the playoff G5 playoff spot is now you're in the Gasparilla Bowl and you don't even have a conference title to look at. So it's just tough. But I'm still excited. Shout out my cousin who goes to Tulane in the band. So it's the Reyes Bowl. We'll see which one comes out on top. Uh, anything else? I real quick would like to touch on the fact that Cal is over, man. It's never been more over. Waking up to the news that Fernando Mendoza has entered the portal. Uh, for a while, I just kind of stared at it because I thought it was fake. I thought it was a meme somebody made. And then I realized it was real. And it sucks, man. I want to die. He was the GOAT. He went 98 yards with his boys, and now he's just gonna go be like a damn Hurricane or a Hoosier. I don't even know. Even worse, LSU Tiger. I don't even know. He's gonna go somewhere, and it sucks. There were rumors about like what was going on behind the scenes, but again, those are kind of also just rumors. But either way, I mean, he was the program, and Lincoln Riley, please save me.
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry for your boys. That's a tough one. At
He's
least you
leaving.
have Brian Harson.
Yeah, kill me, man. It's over. It's so over. Isaiah Hunter portal, Brian Harson OC announcement, Fernando Mendoza transfer portal, all in the span of like 3 days. Cal's cooked. We have the LA Bowl against UNLV, so it'll be Wilcox versus Dan Mullen soon. Um, but it's over, man. It sucks.
Yeah, man. That's rest in peace to your boys. I guess get ready to learn Mikey Keene or some other random G5 quarterback.
Yeah, I guess. Anything else you'd like to touch on before we close out?
I would like to end on the note that this has been the single stupidest Power Four hiring cycle probably of all
Oh
time.
yeah. Okay. That I want to close on that. And I just checked my notes app real quick, touching on the playoffs. I did have something I wanted to say real quick. I am happy for SMU, the football program. I am not happy for SMU, the school. Because it really, you when you take in all these college sports, the identity of the college is just their athletic program, right? Like, I feel like there's always the joke where it's like all these people find out what colleges they want to go to when they're watching March Madness. They're like, oh, like Creighton, cool. Uh, And so I feel like so much of my impressions of schools will just be like their football team or basketball team or just their athletic department in general. And for all season, that's how it's been with SMU. I'm like super fun. Love Rhett Lashley. Love these players. Like they're kind of an underdog in the ACC. Like love that for them. And then I saw a TikTok of these kids in a bar. Well, kids, they're the same age as me. These students in a bar who were like, when our small school like happens to make the CFP. And it made me realize looking at them, what they're wearing and everything, I was like, oh my God, wait a second. SMU's like the richest school in the world with the richest students, with the richest parents in the world. Like, I don't give a like F them, man. Whatever. Like,
Yeah, dude. The cognitive dissonance, because from a football story, it's like, wow, these guys that were kicked out of big time football, they had to build up from the WAC to Conference USA to the American. Now they're just forcing their way into the ACC, not even taking money from the conference, not even taking TV money from the conference. It's like, wow, what an underdog story. And it's like, oh, right, they're the Bush school.
You're just like, oh, they've got private Catholic school Texas money. Oh,
Like they have actual honest to God George Walker Bush or whatever W's middle name is, like at basketball games.
you
Like
could take one donor. You could take one donor's net worth, and it'd probably be more than most schools' entire donor bases.
it's literally just like evil Texas oil money university.
And they get to go under the guise of you know, scrappy underdog who overcame the odds. So, like I said, happy for SMU, the
Football
team,
program. Happy for
not
Rhett
the
Lashlee and Kevin
school.
Jennings.
Yes. So, just wanted to say that because I saw that TikTok last night. And again, like the X analogy, it activated something in my brain. So we can go into the coaching side. Where do you want to start? I'll let you
But
pick.
so I'm gonna start with the one that's most important to me, which is Scott Frost at UCF. Because I love UCF from Orlando. UCF is one of my favorite programs in the country. What the fuck is going on, dude?
Your boys are cooked, bro. Your boys are so cooked.
Like,
Like, come on. He was
uh,
terrible at Nebraska. And it's his fault. He was such a like shady, weird dude who like was just not running things the way he should be, or like he wasn't asking for help. He would do it all like with this his inner circle, and like he stinks, bro. I don't understand.
yeah, bro. So in the span of a week, it went from like Jamie Chadwell, briefly Lincoln Riley, I guess, um, Garrett Riley, Andy Kotelnicki from Penn State, um, Barry Odom looked like he was the front runner at one point, and then it's just like, you know what? Nostalgia. Ooh, baby, give me some sweet,
Well, I mean
sweet
that's
nostalgia.
the meme I because then they make Mackenzie Milton the damn OC, and it's like y'all got any good schemes and P4 experience? It's like we got nostalgia. Oh shit. Like,
So,
bro.
yeah, brother, good night with that one. I want it to work because it'd be fun, but
I mean,
Jesus
these
Christ.
things like dude, they just don't work. Like, this is not me. Like, I'm not trying to say this to say that to illegitimize the Scott Frost tenure, the first UCF tenure, because like I mean, obviously, it's an insane thing to do to go like what 24-1 in the two seasons or 25 and whatever his record was, back to back undefeated regular seasons. Uh, is that correct? Was he both of those, or was he one?
Well,
And then Josh Heupel
no,
was the
it
second.
was Hypo was the second one, but it was all his players.
But he took over from the 0-12, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
George O'Leary retired in 15 after they went 0-12. He takes over in 16. They go like 6-7, I think, and then they go 14-0, um, winning the Peach Bowl,
right.
winning the national championship, kind of.
Can't give you that one, brother. But it's just like again, not to illegitimize that because they beat, a real team in the bowl game, and there were some good teams in the American, but like, let's not act like the American is the Big 12. Like, I get the Big 12 is not the SEC or the Big 10, but like, it's still got a really lot of really good teams. Like, it's a good conference. And so UCF is kind of middling, and they had some players transfer out because Gus Malzahn left, and the recruiting class kind of dipped a little bit. And it's just like, where do you go from
Yeah,
here?
dude. It is an uninspired move. However, is it the most uninspired move? I'm not sure because Rich Rodriguez to West Virginia also
It's
stinks.
the era of reuniting, man. It's pretty funny. I respect it. Let them cook.
That one is like that one's basically the Mac Brown play at UNC when they hired him back like
I
6 years
really,
ago.
I really rock with it. Uh, Speaking of UNC, do you want to talk about the one,
Dude, jeez.
Mr. Billiam Belichick?
Is this the single funniest head coaching hire of all time?
It has to be.
Surely,
Like,
right?
come, wh how? I mean, I know how. Like, UNC is giving him literally all control of a program in an era of college football that is more like professionalized than ever. But like, How? Why? What? I don't get it.
Like, why did why does he want this?
Bro just loves some ball. My favorite has been the jokes that he wants to coach it in college because his girlfriend can hang around people her age.
Like
That
that,
was his main goal.
like Bill Belichick is arguably, and in my opinion, the single best coach, head coach in the history of the National Football League. He completely revolutionized defensive football. He made Nick Saban's career. He made most of what football is at this point. Um, why on earth is he going to a perennial 7-5 ACC team, dude?
Because that's why he's the GOAT, man. He wants to
He's
win
got
a.
8 Super Bowl
If he can
rings.
win a natty there, he can do anything. So that's what he's
He
trying to
has
do.
8 Super Bowl rings. He's coaching in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, dude.
Hey, Chapel Hill's nice. North Carolina's a great state. I'm
It's a
telling you, bro, there's a deal in there that his girlfriend's going to be the cheer coach. It's written in
Jesus Christ.
the Bible that they he gave them or something,
I
whatever
mean,
that thing was.
there might actually be a deal where his son is head coach in waiting. So fuck it, why not?
Anything's possible, bro. They're all he's building up a whole. It's like Succession. So,
Do you think it's
uh,
gonna work? Like actually?
no, because I don't know. Like towards the end, it's the whole thing of like once you reach a certain age, like it's so hard to adapt your coaching style to the new generation. And that's why you see so many coaches get pushed out or either willingly or by the university. And like I'm not saying that this takes away from his GOAT status because it doesn't, but like I mean the last few years in New England were pretty bad. Like I know Mac Jones wasn't a great quarterback, but like they're kind of cooked. And so like he's he couldn't really salvage that. And like UNC's NIL situation is still pretty rough and like how
Well,
much
from the sound of
pool
it, they're just gonna give him like $1 billion war chest to go crazy.
but also how much I'm curious just how much pool he'll really have because I feel like on paper like in theory it sounds like he could bring in like he can just be like I'm Bill Belichick like come play for my school but like it's never really that
Dude,
easy.
I don't know, but someone made a really funny point. Uh, Rest in peace, Jed Fish. His entire staff is about to get poached.
Oh yeah, rip. Tough.
Bill helped him build a staff, and he's like, "Oh, cool, I'll take that. Thanks."
Future Florida special teams coordinator Jed Fish. Just leave with it, man. Don't worry about that shit.
Yeah.
Any other funny ones? The Dan Mullen's still a rumor about UNLV.
Oh
That
my
would be
God, that
pretty
would be
funny.
so funny, dude. That would be so funny. I
Any,
actually like it too, but it'd
yeah.
be so funny. Um,
Anything else?
nah, man, this is a very end credits. Yeah, I get a very end credits feeling to college football right now. I'm gonna keep it so real with you, Chief.
Nah, man. Bill Belichick. It's a new era. The sequel's gonna go crazy. The sequel's always better than the original.
Yeah, man, this shit feels like the last season of Scrubs out here. I'm gonna keep it real with you, dog. We are on fumes. On fumes.
Now we're chilling. We're chilling.
Ugh.
When we're at our lowest, we will rise even farther, even higher than before. As long as Rocco Underwood is taking is holding snaps, whatever he does, then Florida's gonna be just fine. And
Yeah,
you can
Florida will be fine.
college
College
football will
football
be
might be
just
dead.
fine.
College football might be dead, but Florida special teams are fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we need. So, yeah. Anything else?
No, sir. It is a time out there.
Oh yeah. So, it is December 11th is when we're recording this. This is the news we've all gotten. Things are ever changing. We'll be back probably to discuss the bowl game. Hopefully Florida wins. If not, then that'll just not go great with the momentum that kind of dipped a little bit from early signing day and the portal. So, we'll see. But yeah, thank you for listening to another episode. Yeah, peace out. Oh wait, I'm doing a whole
The
outro.
buzzer.
I have a story to tell. I'll tell it on air. Uh, because it ties into the fact I have a sore throat. Uh, I got stuck. I want to tell you the story of how I got stuck yesterday. in some random 2,000 person town in the snow. So it is snowing here in South Dakota. It was snowing all of last night and some of into the morning afternoon here. Whole area is covered in snow. It actually was not snowing. Like there was no real snow. It was more powdery last night here and actually in Rapid City, but now it's all just white everywhere. Uh, and I've been playing in the snow. I also was not prepared enough, wearing enough layers last night, so I think I'm a little ill. So the school is about 30 minutes north of Rapid City, and you have to go pretty deep in the Black Hills. There's an interstate, there's I-90 that runs up through the rest of South Dakota and then into Wyoming. And you take that interstate, but then you branch off, and then you're just driving through these it's a winding path that goes through the hills. It's crazy. And because it's secluded, and the two towns that are there, Lead, Deadwood, are about maybe 3,000, 4,000 people. There weren't really a lot of snowplows out yet. And so because it's high elevation in the hills, the snow is coming down like crazy, just like inches on inches on inches of snow. We get to the school, we park. It's parked on a hill. Like the school's on an incline. So we're parked at the bottom of the hill. So we cover the game, we're leaving. We try to drive up, but then there's a stop sign and there's other cars. So we stop at the stop sign. And because of that, we lose all momentum we had built. So then the car's just stuck in place. So then we back up and then we start again, but it's just not moving. So we back up some more to build more steam, not moving. We keep backing up until we accidentally back up into this is me and my sports editor, by the way. We back up into a snowbank, and then the car is just lodged in that. So we're digging and we're digging, we're digging, trying to get unstuck until this this random high school dude is driving his pickup truck. He pulls out in front of us. He goes, "You guys need help?" He takes the rope. It's like a tow pool, attaches it to our car, and he has to pull us all the way up the hill, then around the edge until we get to like the main road and we can get back. So that was my like first experience with snow, really. I had one my senior year, but it was very brief. So that was a time. So there we go.
I mean, what a way to get sick, huh?
We take that. So that was my story. That was all. So now for real, thank you for listening.